Welcome. My name is Mark Anthony Dubose Jr. I was born July 4th, 1986. I want to say thank you for tuning in to try to figure out some more about your dog. There's some stuff going on out here today that is super fascinating to me. And as fascinating as it is to me, it's definitely probably not fascinating to you. But that's the concepts of these like reactive dogs. These dogs that are barking and lunging at other dogs, barking and lunging at people, barking and lunging at cars and bikes and scooters, and just barking and lunging at butterflies and birds and squirrels, and just some of them are just in the hot mess of all of that. If you're in that situation that they're doing it to all of that, that's in reality the case that I'm most interested in. When I just hear that a dog is just barking at another dog, I'm like, well, that's pretty simple. But when they're doing it for everything, now that turns into something that is just very, very fascinating at the end of the day for me, because I'm always trying to figure out, like, why? What the heck is going on here? What is happening to this dog to make it think that it needs to just, like, say, attack the world? But it's something that is really fascinating with a lot of this stuff with these dogs. And that's the concept of, there's two different types that I've seen. Is the fear side and the excitement side. There may be a whole bunch more, and it may be fear and excited at the same time, but one's going to lean more on the other. And we really need to know, like, what our dog actually is. Is my dog just scared and that's why it's barking? Or is my dog just too excited that it doesn't know what it's doing, so that it just completely flips out? It just goes into this just mass amount of rage because this excitement he doesn't know what he's doing with it. And it's something that we should really be trying to figure out before we do anything with the dogs. Is my dog just scared and it's trying to bark things away? Or is my dog excited and it's trying to, like, literally just play and mingle and hang out, doesn't know what's going on? And if we don't really have, like, an understanding of where that start is, anything that we do next can either make it better, best case scenario, worst case scenario, which is the unfortunate most case scenario, we could be making things way, way, way worse. And way worse that you'll start to see it look pretty decent for a day or three, look decent for a week or two, but then it starts to get way worse that you just have an extreme explosion going on that you're just like, wow, I thought that we were on the right path of going somewhere. Because a lot of, in reality, just straight up, what's on the YouTube is geared more towards, just when I watch a lot of the information out here, is geared more towards the my dog is excited stance. How to get my dog from being so excitable with meeting other dogs, as opposed to the fear side of it. That still, I just see fear way more in dogs today than ever before. But at the same time, I don't believe that just doing what I'm doing, I don't believe that majority of people have a understanding of what the fear looks like in a dog. And then at the same time, there's a lot of people that think that a dog can never be in fear. It's a dog, it's a predator, so it can't possibly in a fear state. And that's where, for me, I have a beautiful balance of looking at these animals differently, because I started working with horses, which are like prey animals. So these horses are terrified of the world. I mean, it's interesting how scared they are. And then I started working with a lot of people with a lot of your dogs and seeing, like, wow, your dog is just as terrified as this horse is. And then it just makes me think, like, well, what the heck is going on here? Because we can't come at this dog the same way as, like, say, a regular dog, because it's scared. If we do, we're going to put it further and further and further into more and more fear. And that's what, unfortunately, a lot of stuff goes on. That we take a fearful dog and we put it in fear to get out of the fear. And now the dog is not only just scared of what it was scared of, it is now scared of what it may do and what may happen. And that's where the dog starts to get into that deep confusion. And that's where the dog is now pretty much very unreliable. Like, very, very unreliable, and you have no idea, like, what's going on and why, if anything, you're in an absolute loss. And that's because in reality, we're looking at these dogs as they are what they're supposed to be, a predator animal. But these domesticated dogs, I'm just going to say that they're evolving to be something different. That I could say the same with us as human beings. You know, a lot of what men are and what women are, and what men and women and children and all of this, we're starting to change it up a little bit. We're starting to realize that, for one, say there's more than just one. And then we're saying that a man isn't supposed to this and a woman isn't supposed to that. So we're even doing that with human beings. So why wouldn't you think the same thing would be going on with these dogs? And the same thing going on with pretty much everything around us. Because whatever it is that we as humans are doing, everything around us is going to start to reflect that. So there's some things going on with these dogs that they're no longer these, like, hardcore predatory animals. They're starting to be these really soft, really submissive, really scared, really nervy, and worse than even what horses are at the end of the day, because they're not used to that. They're used to being tough and strong. But when they run into a scenario that they're no longer feeling that way and they're starting to get nervous, they're going to shut down, because it's not in their DNA to be nervous and scared of stuff. It's in their DNA to just like go and attack and fight and kill to the death, basically, like get stuff done, make it happen. So they're going through a very, very conflicting situation where they're scared, but they're trying to act tough. But when they're trying to act tough, that's what starts to make things look really, really scary. And that's what a lot of us are seeing with our dogs. So the main thing is, you got to figure out what it is that you're using and what it is, the method that you're approaching this animal to try to get it into a better place. Because if you're thinking that I'm going to take a scared dog and I'm going to, like, say, correct that dog, I'm going to use leash corrections, leash pops, I'm going to use the prong, I'm going to use the e-collar, I'm going to use these things to snap my dog out of barking at other dogs. You may find success for a couple of weeks to even a couple of months. But this is the main story that I just continuously keep on hearing and seeing over and over and over again. It worked. But then now what? Now it's not working. Now my dog is like dancing on the leash, and it's like, it's extra terrified. Because not only is it scared of, like said, that other dog now, it is now scared of not only just me, it's also scared of the leash. It's scared of so much more, and so much more is going on with it that it's just running into a real hot mess. And that's what we need to do our absolute best to get away from. And especially, now, if your dog is excited, I hate saying this, I don't even like using that word hate, but I don't want to say this, and I don't want to agree to this, and someone go out there and says, oh, Mr. Mark DeBose said so. But if your dog is excited, it is in a way that I've seen it work. I do not recommend this, but I have seen it work. To get a dog to stop being excited for meeting other dogs and being the excited reactive, you just get a dog a correction, it just stops in 5 minutes and it stays that way for the next 25 years. I don't know about 25 years, but I've seen this. And I've even done this with working my own self in my own past. And I see the dogs today and they are good to go. And all I did was I put that prong on that dog, I gave that dog a snap, and I put that flat collar back on that dog, and that dog was done. It's finished. I've seen it. I've seen it in my face. I've worked with it. I've dealt it, and I've seen that. But the main thing is, I can say that I've done that in a way of understanding what that dog is and what's going on with that one specific dog. And every single trainer out here has that video and has that story. Yeah, I did fix it. But that's the thing. It doesn't work for all of them. So that's where I had to just completely stop that, because if I'm getting success with 1 out of 20 dogs, I don't ever want to go that route. I'd rather go the route of helping you get a slower and steady situation with that one dog that I was able to do that with, instead of that 5-minute fix. Realizing that I want to help out the other 19 dogs as well to be able to have at least a similar level of success. And that's what, unfortunately, what's being sold to a lot of people right now is correct your dog and your dog will stop barking. And that just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And the main thing that I'm going to say that it for sure doesn't work is if the owner is nervous about doing that concept. And if the owner of the dog is in that sense of, I don't knows and I'm unsure, it's not going to work, because the dogs can see this and they can understand it. And that's why when the dog is, like, say with me, it's going to perform perfect. Because if I'm giving it a correction and I don't care, I'm neutral about it. I'm not like happy about it. I'm not sad about it. I'm just saying, doing what I need to do. The dog is going to look good in the moment. But then as soon as I hand the leash back to you and tell you to do and replicate that same thing, you're going to be stumbling. But then here's the main issue is, if the dog is scared of another dog, and then you try to use a fear tactic to get that dog to not be scared of that other dog, you're not even going backwards. You're going nowhere at all. You're just at a complete standstill, and it's just amplifying that standstill. That's why things are just looking worse and being worse, but not actually getting worse. It's not getting better. It's the same thing, but just it's more. So it used to be like a whine and a growl, and now it's like a bark and a lunge. It's not like it's really running away and bitten anything or did anything. It's not getting worse like that, but it's just appearing to get worse. So that's where we run into the situation that we're constantly trying to, where you at? We're constantly trying to, here. We're constantly trying to get the dogs into a better place, but we're just not. Kahi, wait. We're just not, and we're running into a situation that we're trying to correct these dogs, and watching these dogs just keep going worse and worse and worse and worse, to the point that it's, like I said, it's not getting better and it's not going worse. It's just staying the same and amplifying more. Come here. Hi.
Hi. Beautiful dog. Oh wow, they're so beautiful.
Come on. And that's what we need to really pay close attention to, of thinking that you are going to, like said, correct these dogs to get them to get into a better place. And again, it does work. Very, very, very short term. It works and it looks pretty, very short term. But as far as it actually getting into a better place, it's not going to get there. So the one thing that I really like to be able to do with a lot of these, like the dogs that are scared, is to get them out of that fear. And a lot of times the dogs are just, they're messed up. They're messed up in a sense that where they live, where they are, where they walk, where everything is about them, that they're totally thrown off because they're just terrified of everything around. So we have to be able to get the dogs to be able to get comfortable with being where they are. And for me, the number one thing that I really like to be able to get the dogs to understand is to be able to, for one, have one positive experience with that dog. That's why for me, you know, I go all kinds of different places with my dogs. I put them in sticky situations. Like yesterday, I put them in more of a busier place. And then today, Kahi, we're going straight on, buddy. Kahi, come here. You being a little push. Come here. You being a little pushy today. I hear you. We about to go right back on leash again. Come here. Heel. We about to, I hear you. He's like, I'm about to do what I want to do right now. Come on, boy. Come on. We're not going that way. We're going this way. That's the one thing. That's the only thing that I'm going to say that will irritate me about my dogs when they tell me which way I'm going. I'm like, dude, I'm going this way. I ain't going that way. What do you think? What do you think's going on right now? Well, I know what he wants. He wants to jump in the water right now. I can't blame him. It started off 60 degrees and it's already like 80 something right now. But it's something that the dogs need to be able to go to a place that's going to be able to be much more relaxed, much more calm, much more just hanging out and being able to chill. And to be able to get the dogs to be able to experience like a good positive association with you without everything being so tense and everything being so wild. And that's why for me, I really like to be able to go towards like these places that I go to, is the trails and the things, that, just different stuff, different places, so that the dogs can be able to, for one, have just one positive experience, even if that's just once a week, so that the dog could just be able to relax and calm down and just be able to enjoy itself and just have a fun time. And not be in this super ultra stressed out stance all the time and wondering and confused and just broken down and feeling like it can never just like have a win, basically, I could say. The dog is just in a situation that it's always stressed out with having no option of being able to have any sort of like peace. And that's why sometimes it's just the best to take your dog somewhere different than where you've always been walking it, and especially in your neighborhood, because a lot of your dogs are messed up and they're going crazy inside of the house. Because if they're crazy of the neighborhood, just know that they're crazy in the house because they're scared of what could get them inside of that house that's in that neighborhood that's going to be able to come and get them. So you got to do something to be able to understand what's going on with this dog. And it's not going to come down to giving a dog a treat in that sense, because that can amplify it and make it much worse again. And or trying to give a dog a correction in that stance, because that dog is going to, again, just continue to keep getting worse, because it's going to be very confused of what the heck is going on. And this is just I'm going to say the weird stuff that I just see, that we see dog and we think that dog should be confident. The dog should be like ready to go to battle type stuff. But most of these dogs aren't. And they're starting to have a shift and a change, because they're soft. They're getting soft. They no longer have to do the duties that they used to have to do. So they're starting to get soft. Just like most German Shepherds today are super soft. That's why they're trying to create the new dogs. I say create, but really push hard with like the Malinois and mainly that dog, because Dutch Shepherds are still tough. Those are some tough dogs. I kind of want one of those at some point in my life. I'll get 2 or 3 of them for farm work. But these dogs that we're trying to make them still continue to be tough. But a lot of these dogs today, we're breeding them so much in such weird ways that they're just getting super soft. And that's why I see a lot of German Shepherds today that are wild, because they're super soft. I rarely see, and you're gonna be that one that leaves that comment and says, "Oh, my Malinois is reactive and it's flipping out at everything." I rarely see that. I rarely see Malinois that are just that are nervous and scared. It's not the norm. But it's normal for a German Shepherd to be that way. It's normal for a Border Collie even to be that way. It's starting to become normal, but that's not what's normal to that breed specific. They should be confident, strong, tough dogs, but they no longer are. And we can no longer treat them as if they are that, knowing that there's something different going on here. And that's something that I think a lot of us really need to really look at our dogs. And we got this, like I said, big looking dog with, "Oh, my dog is tough. I don't know what you're talking about." And I'm going to say to you, more than likely it's not. If your dog is barking at another dog, your dog is soft. And it just is what it is. And don't think that you're gonna come in with like some sort of dominance to try to convince that dog to stop doing what it is that it's doing. You're just gonna keep you're gonna fail, man. And more than likely, that's why even if you're hearing what the heck I'm saying right now, you're failing because you tried some things. Some people said to try some things and to do this and to do this, and your dog is gonna get better. And you saw it get better for a moment, and then it just went right back to nothingness. So that's one thing that I just want a lot of people to realize, that you can't come strong. You can't come, that's a good word of putting, obedient to a dog that is nervous, that is scared, that is fearful. That's going to set you up for absolute failure. And because worst case scenario, the dog is going to, you're going to push the dog further into that fear, and that fear is going to amplify, and then that dog will have to do something. In most cases, those dogs, when they bite, it's not a pretty bite, because when they're nervous, they're going to like do a little extra than what they should do. Where a confident dog would just give you a little nip and say, "Hey man, stop touching me." But a nervous dog is going to just take your arm off, man, because they don't know how to control that emotion that's going on inside of them. They just turn into just straight up fear, and it just goes absolutely wild. And it's something that we need to really, really look at these dogs and wonder, is my dog scared or is my dog excited? Because if your dog is excited, granted, there's all kinds of different ways to be able to get your dog out of that. But still, for me, I'd rather not go towards the excessive pressure, because the dog is going to not trust you as much. I would go especially towards both sides of this, fear and excited. I'm going towards the exercise up front. Make sure the dog has his needs met to be able to do something, to be able to let that frustration out. But as far as the dogs being in a level of fear, we need to approach these dogs in a completely different way, in a way of understanding that the dog is going to give you a whole lot of pushback if you're going to try to come and give it any sort of pressure to get it to stop doing it. And this is where things get complicated, because the untrained eye will look at a dog barking, lunging, snarling, going crazy at the end of the leash and say, "Oh, my dog is aggressive. My dog is mean. My dog is ready to hurt. My dog he can't possibly be scared." A scared dog would never do that. And that's where, sorry, this is a serious hill right here, my goodness. And that's where we're running into a lot of issues, because we're thinking that, oh, the dog is doing that I could just come in and give that dog a correction and that dog will stop. Or I could come in and give that dog some treats and that dog will stop. And that is not the case at all with working with these dogs. And that's something that is getting very, very just misled and confused with a lot that we see and a lot that's going on. Because that's where, for me, when I see the videos of the dog was fixed in 5 seconds, in 5 minutes, that's what I personally continuously keep on seeing, are the dogs that are in fear. So now the dog is scared of another dog. So then that's why it's barking. So then we go ahead and get that dog to be scared of us. So then once the dog is scared of us, then we're able to get the dog to look good in the moment. And then after a couple of days, the dog just goes right back to that same old thing again, where it's just like, well, all that was for nothing. And that's where the marketing gimmicks really start to come in, where it's, oh, I didn't keep up with it, so that's why it went back. I didn't follow through with all the things that I needed to follow through with, so that's why the dog basically reverted and went back to the same stuff again. And that's not true. That's just not true. It's just we're doing the wrong stuff to these dogs, thinking that we could just try something and see if it sticks. And that's not what we should be doing with these animals. You're not going to get any sort of success doing that with these animals. That you got to really just understand what's going on with your specific dog. You got to understand what's happening and where your dog is. Not what dog on some TV show looks like. Not what dog that even what mine look like. Don't look at what my dogs look like. And you got to pay attention to what yours is and what yours is going on with. And then what I do with mine at the end of the day is not something that you should be doing with yours. Because what I do with mine is based on what mine are needing. And if you try to do the exact same stuff as me, you might stumble and fumble. But there's one thing that I can say that I do that is, Kai, you can go. You can go. Go ahead. Your eyes are looking much better already, homie. There's one thing that I can say that I just do that I know I can recommend and say a whole lot of people have a lot of success with, is just put the dog on a leash and put the leash around your waist and just go for a walk. The dog is just the dog's with you. The dog is moving along, the dog is happening, and something just happens with that dog. Don't do anything extra, don't do anything more. A lot of what we do is a little bit too much. And at the same time, I could say too little by not doing anything with the dog, but a lot of it is too much, and we're just doing too much. And that's what's convincing the dogs to basically stay in that level of fear still, that it's not really getting anywhere. It's not getting any better. Because I definitely have my own fair share of my very fearful dogs. And I have dogs that are also very, very confident. Where like my Dalmatian is a more confident dog, actually. She's more bold. She doesn't really get scared of too much. I mean, a dog can be lunging to get right in her face, and she just looks at it like, oh, what's up, man? How's it going? Let's play. And I'm just like, dude, you just don't care. She just, and it's not that, at first I was like, oh, it's just because she's a young puppy. She don't know, but she still is that way. That's just who she is. Where my shepherd here, dog is barking in his face, and he's like, oh my goodness, I got to get out of here. Like it's just too much for him. And then like my border collie, he's super confident, man. He's the definition of what a confident dog. He's the definition of what I say is dog, because he hears something, he's like, I'll go and get it for you. Yeah, I never forget the days and the nights that I'm just walking with him and next to the trees and in the wood area, and we hear a noise out there, and he runs in there and tries to go and get it and figure it out. And then he's like, I got you, man. Like the dogs aren't that way anymore, and that's what dogs used to basically be. And that's why for me, I like to go to the breeders personally. I know I shouldn't be getting breeder dogs, but I got dogs for needs and dogs for purpose. So that's why I get them. I don't recommend it. But unless you got a need, you got a purpose. But I go to the ones that are using the dogs that are still working, the dogs that are still doing what they're supposed to do. So those dogs are still tough. But you try to go to an average day German Shepherd breeder, you're going to get you a dog that's more than likely super soft and super submissive, to the point that you're going to be struggling with that dog, because that dog is going to be very, very fearful. And it's just, I get it. We want the dogs because of the looks, and we skip up on a lot of stuff because of how the dog looks and not really paying attention to who the dog actually is. So we end up with dogs that are just a huge hot mess. And this is what I see personally with a lot of the new dog today is the Australian Shepherd. These dogs are like so scared. Some of them, it's a lack of energy is why they're barking at everything. But most of them, they are just terrified of the world. And we're breeding them on base what they look like compared to what they do and who they are. And when we're constantly doing stuff like that with the dogs, that's why we're getting these very, very soft, very nervous, very fearful animals. And that's just becoming the normal with pretty much all the dogs across the board. Because there's some of it that I get, we try to create these new dogs that are more pets and not so much as a working status, but we're in a sticky situation right now that we're trying to convince these dogs to be a certain way without, and it's going to take time to be able to get what it is that we're looking for. But most of these dogs are in a very, 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 I mean, very, very high level of fear. And that's not normal to the dog. The dog inside of itself knows that it's confident, but yet it's scared. So it's throwing the dog off. And we got to be able to look at that dog and understand that it just, at the end of the day, I used to say, and I used to think that I can take a fearful dog and turn it confident and make it be a confident dog. And I just personally don't think there's some truth to that. I can go so far. I can do so much. I can get them to get to the point that, yeah, we're not barking at dogs, we're not barking at people, we're not barking at bikes, and I can get them to that point. But as far as them being just super okay with everything and being near it all and being intermingled with everything, it's just not going to come. It's not going to get there. And that's something that we just really need to really think about with these dogs, is we want to get them to the point that they can be able to be in the world. We can get them that confident. But as far as making them just be that next step where they're good to go and everything is perfect, I'm not on board with that. And personally, that's just me seeing what it is that I have in my own life and seeing other people's dogs that I'm close to and just realizing that it just is what it is. The dog is kind of just that right up front, right away with who they are. Because there's some dogs that you can like do something wrong to them as a puppy and put them in a sticky situation. They bounce back and they're perfectly fine. It's like my border collie. I put him with the goats too soon in his life, and the goats just rammed him and threw him on the ground and kicked him, and he got a little nervous and he ran away. The next day, that dude is like doing push-ups on his own to figure out how to make sure that doesn't happen again. And that's because that's who he is inside of him from birth, from his where he came from. Whereas another dog that happens to, like my German Shepherd, the reason he don't really chase the cows is because they run at him. The cows are no joke. The cows will run at you. They're not something to just push around. So they ran at him and they bumped him once, and he's like, "Yep, I'm good. Whatever. We're not doing that no more." He's just like, I accept defeat. I'm not gonna just try to come in and manhandle y'all. That's not what I'm capable of doing. And there's no reason for me to like try to force him to even do that. That's just not what he's capable of doing. And I need to make sure I keep him in his lane and he stays in his lane and he's going to be good to go. But a lot of what we're doing with these dogs is pushing them as if they're not as if, so I don't even know what is this way. We're gonna take a detour real quick. Push the dog to be something that it isn't, and that's why we're struggling, because we're looking at these dogs like they are what they're supposed to be. Dogs. They're supposed to be tough. They're supposed to be strong. They're supposed to be courageous. They're supposed to be bold. They're supposed to be all this. But at the end of the day, a lot of them aren't. A lot of them just aren't. And in reality, we can know that right up front, right away, at a really young age dog. 6 weeks, 7 weeks old, we can pretty much tell where that dog is. But a lot of us are just buying dogs because of, at the end of the day, what it looked like. And you're like, I got a nice dog. And a nice looking dog isn't really the nice dog that you're actually wanting in the end. And what you really should be focusing more on, say your next dog situation is, who is that dog? Is that dog a confident dog, or is that dog a scared dog? But something about being able to work with very fearful dogs is a very interesting thing, because it gives you a skill set to know how to work with a whole lot of dogs. Not just only fear dogs, but also very confident dogs. It gives you a really, really nice skill set to just have for you and your life and your future and what it is that you got going on. It's not even something that you need to put out for hire, just a skill that you've acquired being able to be on this planet, to be able to do something incredible. Then it's just a story for you and your own self. Your friends, your family, no one gives a crap about how you got your fearful dog to be able to walk to the store and walk down the street without barking at everybody. In reality, nobody cares. It's something that's just for you. And it's just for you to be able to have and for you to be able to do. And there's something beautiful about that I don't know what it is. It's really neat. And I'd want more people to just really look at your dog and wonder, is my dog scared? Because if your dog is scared, you do not want to sit out here and think about trying to correct the dog. You do not want to try to give the dog treats to get out of it. You do not want to do any of that to the dog, but just work with the dog on taking it places and taking it places and taking it places. And that dog is going to eventually just stop, hang out, and just relax. And once it relaxes, you're going to run into a situation that everything is going to be fine. But the dog needs to get through all that on its own. And a lot of you need to just find a neutral thing for the dog and find a neutral place for the dog and take the dog there so it can have, for one, a positive experience, as opposed to what it's been getting its whole life is just negative, 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 negative. It goes out around the block. It's already suspicious knowing that the dog lives here, and the dog lives there, and the dog is here, and the dog is there, and the dog this, and the dog that. It's already just going through all that mess. And that's something that you want to be able to give your dog an opportunity at least once a week, but more the better, to just go somewhere that's just now neutral. The dog doesn't know what's around the corner. The dog doesn't know what lives here. The dog is just going to be able to sniff and smell and look around and just say, oh, wow, this is just a new world, a new place, a new everything. So they can start to just relax. And once that dog starts to relax, it's going to start to look at you like, hey, you're pretty good. You're pretty cool. Like everything's all right with you. And then you just continue to keep on moving forward with that. But if you're going every day fighting and fighting and fighting, you're in a constant negative loop. And that negative loop isn't just going to turn positive because you threw a treat at them. It's not going to turn positive because you threw a correction at them. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Your problems just can't be fixed with just giving it a toy, giving it some food, or beating it into submission. Your problems just don't get fixed that way. Your problems get fixed in a way of being able to just let that dog be able to see, for one, something positive. It's something different, and being able to give that dog some sort of exercise that it needs. Because when it's doing the exercise that it needs, that's where you're going to really find like the dog really lighten up, because the dog is going to start to get excited. The dog gets excited in a good, healthy, positive way, doing what it needs to do. If it wants to sniff, then let it sniff. If it wants to run, then let it run. If it wants to chase, then let it chase. If it wants to dig, you got to find a place to let them dig and let them do these things so that they could just have some sort of like just fun, man, some sort of openness, greatness, niceness, just openness, and just be a dog. And then the dog is going to look at you like, oh, okay, well, you're a pretty cool person. You're able to provide this to me. And then that's where your dog is going to be able to want to take your leadership and realize that it's scared, but it doesn't need to be that scared. And that's the main thing that we should be looking at with the dogs. The dog may not be this dog that you could just take to, I don't know what's a busy place, like a circus or something that's full of 10,000 people, but you can get your dog to just be able to walk on the street, down the street, around dogs, around people, without the dog freaking out and flipping out at everything. You want to at least be able to get your dog to be able to understand that. And that, I'm going to say, is very achievable with every dog that I've worked with still so far, that we can do that. We can get them to be at that point. But as far as doing the extra and doing the most, it just might not be that dog for that. And he's just going, for one, take more time and more time, more time. That's what I can say about my shepherd. I never thought that I could take him to busy places, but I can today because he's nervous, but he'll stay with me. And we just keep doing that day after day after day. And he's just like, oh, okay, well, I can do this. I can make it happen. Because like this coming weekend, we got a road race that we're about to do first one. There's gonna be a couple thousand people out here. And he's gonna be like, I don't know, but we just get to running, which he likes to do, is run. He likes to get to moving, he'll get to sniffing, and he'll just turn into a good experience of, hey, everything's okay. For one, he's just doing what he's supposed to be doing. He does what he likes to be doing. So I can do what I like to be doing around a bunch of people, and I'll be able to be all right. And it's something that it takes time. Because I've had this dog pass through about 3 years. I think coming on 3 years in a couple of months. So 3 years in September or so. So I've had him like 2.5 years, and he's still just not the best of the best, or the greatest of the greatest. But that's just who he is. And I greatly appreciate every experience that comes to me to just have to keep working through the stuff. And that's where for me, I'm got it a little easier but hard with my Dalmatian. She's not nervous and scared, but she got a heck of a lot of prey drive that she's not supposed to have. She's got a heck of a high food drive that she's not really supposed to have. So her breed standard is kind of messed up a little bit. And I got her hoping and wishing and praying for a dog with not a lot of prey drive. But at the same time, everything comes to me for a reason. Stuff that I'm working on is stuff that I'm able to help someone else out with realizing how to do to get the dogs through some things. And like stuff with the squirrels with her, we're getting there. We're getting there. It's not perfect yet. Months later, we're not good. We're not just, I could walk by and runs in front of me and she just doesn't react and doesn't respond. It's going to take time to get there. And that's something that is just I'm going to say the beauty of working with dogs. Just understand that the time is what you really appreciate in the end. No one else is going to respect it, care, do anything for, but you're the one that's going to see it all. Thank you. This dude done found himself a big old bone.